Hey, I made it through phase 1. It only took me like 2 weeks. So yeah, I watched the Avengers again. This has been my favorite Marvel movie since I watched the Avengers back in 2012. Having seen them all, except for Ant-Man and the Wasp, the Avengers is still my favorite. Having rewatched it just now, the Avengers is still my favorite. Whether it's the best, that's tougher to say. It's definitely going to be my favorite, probably for a long time. For a while there, it was my favorite superhero movie just in general. But, you know, then Spider-Verse happened. So, yeah. Anyway. Okay, so 2012, we get to go see the Avengers. In 2011, we had Captain America and Thor, both came out the same year. Joss Whedon was announced as the writer-director. For geeks who were Joss Whedon fans, everybody went, holy fuck, you don't understand, guys. Like, this is gonna be something amazing. Everybody else went, oh, okay, I mean, I'll go check it out. It's a novelty. I mean, I didn't really like most of those movies, I guess, but, you know, whatever, I'll go watch the Avengers. And it became a phenomenon. Like, the first full-on film phenomenon we've had since Star Wars, probably, in terms of zeitgeistiness and in the box office. I mean, obviously, Lord of the Rings made a shit zillion dollars, The Matrix did well, but in terms of just, like, how much money this fucker made, it's a pretty big deal. Everybody's fantastic in it. The whole cast is back. Except for Norton, of course. Norton is not in this movie. We get Ruffalo instead. Their interactions are fantastic. The plot is pretty simplistic, but also makes sense. The pacing is good. The action is phenomenal. The emotion is there. It continues Tony's character arc. It gives a lot for Cap. It gives a bit for Thor. Everybody kind of grows from where we last saw them. It's pretty fucking stunning filmmaking. In terms of like the big showpieces of this movie, the thing to talk about the most is probably the Hulk. They finally nailed it. They figured out a way, I guess Joss Whedon figured out a way to get this right. You know, don't use the Hulk in a whole movie. Use him in small pieces. Make him part of a team, and just let him be fucking awesome when you need him to be. The Hulk sequences in this movie are pretty spellbindingly fun. Those are the most memorable moments in the whole movie for most people, is when Thor bitch slaps Loki and like whacks him around like a rag doll and calls him a puny god. And of course, when when Bruce says, "I'm always angry," and punches a giant space whale in the face. The Hulk is definitely kind of the showstopper of this movie. For me, my favorite sequences are when every character is on screen at the same time arguing with each other. Because I really like when characters talk. I like dialogue. I love Joss Whedon dialogue. And watching characters interact is how you get to know them. That's how you fall in love with them. You know, the other big moment from the trailer that everyone remembers is, you know, Stark, you're just a guy in a suit. Take that away, what are you? Billionaire, genius, playboy, philanthropist. Like, it's those moments that I love the most. Joss Whedon is kind of the reason why this movie's so good. I mean, obviously Kevin Feige, the producer behind all this stuff, he's the puppet master. He hired Joss Whedon. He was able to build the first 5 movies in such a way that they could become this thing. But by allowing Joss Whedon, who'd only done TV work and made one movie that didn't make a lot of money, by allowing him to come in and write and direct this movie and really take over the reins and make it his version of the Avengers, which is what everybody wants. It's everyone's version of the Avengers. It's fun and amazing. It works really well. I have to say, as a do my due diligence and be a responsible YouTube person or critic or whatever the fuck I am, and say that you know, it is a shame Joss Whedon's kind of a piece of shit. Not my place to talk about it right now. That's what this video is about. But Google it. Joss Whedon's kind of a piece of shit. Not like in a Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein kind of way, but it's worth mentioning that the guy who made this movie and the guy whose work I love a lot is also kind of a dick. But whatever, fuck all that, let's just talk about the movie for now. It is a character piece first and foremost, and that's something that the best Marvel movies, the best movies in general, tend to be. Guardians is very much works on the same premise. Like, yeah, it's fun to see all these different planets in Guardians, but it's really, we love those characters. So yeah, it's fun to see a big old fucking action sequence takes 40 minutes at the end of the movie. It's fun to watch these characters fight each other. Who would win in a fight between Hulk and Thor? But what really works for it is all these characters are set up in such a way that we know exactly where they are at the beginning of the movie, we know who they are, and the way they interact is pretty lovely. Let's see, what else did I talk about? It's weird watching the Avengers, the first one, all these years later, and reflecting on what's happened since, because it's just like so many people have died because of you know, the snap at the end of Infinity War. I forgot to mention it in Thor, but that one in particular, man, when you watch the coronation sequence in Thor, where they, like, all of Asgard has showed up, you remember, like, fuck, man, like, Hela killed everybody in Thor 3, and, Thanos took care of the rest. Like, it's weird to see. It's kind of like when you go back to the beginning of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and you realize, well, that character became a witch, this one died and came back to life twice, that's a werewolf. Like, it's, when you watch this movie now, like, so much has happened since then, little moments like Natasha and Bruce meeting, oh yeah, they have kind of a love story thing going on, don't they? When Cap and Bruce fight, when Thor and the Hulk fight on the helicarrier, you remember, like, they're gonna do that again in a better movie. Well, not a better movie, it's a better action, it's a better fight. It's just interesting, all the groundwork this movie laid. It's a pretty impressive bit of filmmaking, from a production level, from a scheduling level, from a screenwriting level. I remember at the time being like, how is this movie not gonna need a screenplay nomination? There's like 6 main characters and they all have good character arcs. And then I saw Infinity War and I was like, oh, okay. That one's got like 13, 14 main characters. So this one really, really laid the groundwork. It's a great culmination of, at that point, 4 years and the 6th movie. So 5 years of waiting, five movies worth of waiting, and 4 years worth of waiting culminated in this thing, and it was absolutely worth the wait. Loki is the villain was the big question mark going into it. The trailers revealed he was in there, and you're like, well, A, I thought he fell off a rainbow bridge, and B, he was kind of fucking lame in Thor. I don't know if he's going to work as the villain, but in the hands of Joss Whedon, letting Tom Hiddleston kind of go crazy a bit and lean into the psychosisness and the actual, he's a trickster god, he's not just kind of like Thor's adopted brother. In fact, on the commentary track, they talk about the fact that Joss Whedon didn't quite buy it himself. Like, he wanted a bigger monster or something to show up, something they could fight, something they could punch. And then his buddy reminded him, well, Loki, as compelling and, I guess, sympathetic as he was in the first Thor, he did get thrown off a rainbow bridge into oblivion. That might make you a little bit crazy, which allowed Joss to kind of write the character as a bit more maniacal, insane, fun, trickster god type of thing. This is where Loki became everybody's favorite. He is the first great villain we've had in all the movies. And don't get me wrong, I love Jeff Bridges as an actor, but it's kind of a lame villain. He's a fantastic villain. He's fun, he's charming. You love to see him get his ass beat by everybody when it happens. His motivation, as simplistic as it is, does make sense. Like, he is the adoptive son of the King of Asgard. He's the biological son of the King of Frost Planet. He wants to rule. So it makes absolute sense that that's his whole goal, is he wants to control this planet. He sees humans as beneath him. This is what he wants. And of course, it's up to our heroes to stop them. Other things that are pretty great in this movie are the way Tony is introduced and what he's doing now. He's taken his triangle thing that he invented, his new element that he discovered, and he's leading an energy surplus now. He's trying to become like the forefront of the energy crisis and change the world that way, not just through being a superhero. Seeing Cap in the gym, still dealing with being a post-traumatic stress and a man at a time, and he's got this great line where he says, I was in a war, I woke up, they tell me we won, they didn't say what we lost, because, what America was at the time to him and what it's become doesn't really make a lot of sense. So he is displaced, and obviously there's great humor with that, where there's like a reference to The Wizard of Oz, and he's like, I got that one, I understood that reference. Everybody's pretty great. If I have complaints, I basically only have 2. One is, it's a bummer that the machine that they're going to destroy that's controlling the portal, that, Selvig, the guy from Thor, even though he was being mind-controlled by Loki, found a way to, like, program a backdoor to destroy it. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. It was fine with the only thing that can destroy it is itself. I was fine with that. My other big complaint is when Tony Stark throws the nuke at the alien ship, all the other aliens on the planet collapse, just like the battle droids did. That sucks. I mean, if there was some line of dialogue about how they have to, I don't understand why the army on Earth can't function if the battleship blows up. But that's what happened. And I mean, I get it. You got to have your big climactic moment, and then you don't want to spend the rest of the movie, picking up the pieces. But yeah, it's frustrating. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints. I think this is a pretty fucking amazing movie. I love watching it now because even though it's only been like 7-8 years, the way movies are made, particularly in Marvel movies, there's so much of a sense of green screen. And it's done well in the Marvel movies, But like, you know, if you watch the newest Avengers movie, or even like Thor Ragnarok, while there are big ass sets, the backgrounds just feel very fake and artificial, and not even necessarily CGI, but like sound stages. It feels very artificial in a, you know, cool, constructive, stylized kind of way. This movie, just like the first Iron Man, and really all the first phase, uses a shitload of locations. You know, the opening sequence where Loki shows up, that's at a real place that NASA owns, and it's a big ass fucking building. You know, the helicarrier sets look like, you know, a thing that you've been on before. It doesn't just look like they built something, even though I'm sure they did. The Streets of New York sequence, I don't know where they filmed that, but it doesn't feel like a soundstage. The whole movie feels a little more textured than Marvel movies would become as technology evolves, and they shoot all these fucking movies in Georgia at this point, basically. So yeah, obviously you can't shoot Wakanda in Georgia, but that's what they did, I think. I have to do the behind the scenes research on Black Panther. Yeah, so it's a pretty fucking amazing movie. It's a great culmination of a thing. When this movie happened, everyone I knew, even people who didn't give a fuck about Marvel, kind of had to admit they loved it. I will say that watching it in the theater the first time, the moment at the end where Loki and Stark are talking, you know, I have an army, we have a Hulk, that whole scene, where Loki goes to take his scepter and touch Stark's heart to mind control him. I remember thinking, like, fuck, is that how we're going to end the climax of this movie? Is going to be the Avengers versus a mind-controlled Iron Man? That'll be interesting. And of course, that's not what happened. It goes tink against his arc reactor. So, little stuff like that. And every turn kind of worked for me. Every surprise was a surprise. Another one was, and this is more naivete on my part, but the movie was told in such a way that I bought it. When Stark throws the nuke through the hole, and his suit goes off and he's falling back, for a split second I was like, holy fuck, they're going to kill Iron Man. And then I was like, no, they're not. He makes billions of dollars. They're not going to kill Iron Man yet. But like, the movie was told in such a way where it felt like that was Tony Stark's arc, you know? There's a lot of talk about how you're not really a hero, you only fight for yourself, and you don't know how to make the sacrifice play. You're unwilling to acknowledge that sometimes sacrifices have to be made, yada, yada, yada. All that conflict with Cap culminating in this moment, for just a split second, I was like, holy fuck, they're going to kill everybody. Or they're going to kill Tony Stark. Which obviously is a ridiculous thing, but I bought it. And I can't say the same for Infinity War. You know, when the snap happens in Infinity War, I wasn't like, oh my god, they're dead for real. I was like, this is impressive, but Black Panther made $1 billion, and he just can't, like, this isn't going to happen. So, dog over there. So yeah, the movie really, really worked well for me. I love the setups and payoffs in this early on when Agent Coulson shows up at Stark Tower to give him the information to Tom, hey, there's a fucking movie that's about to happen. There's things going on, we need your help. What's her name? You know, Goop Girl. Fucking Pepper Potts. Can't remember the actor, Gwyneth Paltrow. Pepper Potts says to him, oh, hey, Phil, how you doing? And Tony's like, his name is Agent. Which is a nice little line, but later on, when Agent Coulson is killed and Tony Stark is giving a speech to Loki about how he pissed off every member of the Avengers, he says there's one more person you pissed off. His name was Phil. And that's a nice little setup and payoff thing. Speaking of Coulson, that's another complaint I have, but it's not the movie's fault. I guess maybe it's Joss Whedon's fault because he did create the show or is credited as being an executive producer on the show. I don't know whose idea it was, but Agent Coulson dying is a big emotional moment in the movie for fans because we've been following him around since the first Iron Man. It's an emotional movie for all the characters because they've all had a chance to interact with Coulson in their previous movies a bit and in this one, with the exception of the Hulk. Bruce Banner and Coulson don't really talk that much. But everybody else, you know, Thor and Coulson met in Thor, the first movie. They have a continued conversation here about regret and Thor saying, we're supposed to be civilized on Asgard, but we come here and we just fight like wild monsters. Obviously, Cap and Coulson have a great moment about how he's a fanboy. Coulson's a Captain America fanboy, helped design the costume. And of course, Tony and him have years of history together. So when he died, it really meant a lot. And he's got a great line where he says, you know, this was never going to work unless they had something to, he doesn't say it, but you know, the Avengers have to avenge something. It's frustrating, however, that like, I don't know, less than a year later, Agent Coulson's alive, he's got his own TV show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's plot stuff happening there, and I guess that show is in canon with the movies. I tried to watch it, the first 2 episodes were really bad, and I just kind of gave up. And it's really frustrating to me that as far as I know, everyone in the Avengers still thinks Coulson's dead. And for all I know, he might be dead again. He might have gotten snapped. But that is a really frustrating, kind of artifact of this movie, is that the big emotional moment of Coulson dying is kind of undone for the audience. We know he's not dead. I don't know I'm assuming all the characters. Maria Hill knows he's alive because she's on the show. Fury knows he's alive. Scarlett Johansson on that show ever?
I don't think so.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's that part of it is frustrating. But it works for me. It's also one of those things as a Joss Whedon fan. Spoilers real quick for Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Vlog. That was the first piece of Joss Whedon thing I ever watched. And at the end of it, the girl died. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, this happy little musical that's got lots of penis jokes in it just killed the girl. Jesus. And then I went on to watch more Joss Whedon stuff. And Joss Whedon likes to kill characters. Particularly characters we all like. So when you watch the Avengers and Coulson gets it, you're just like, well, there's Joss Whedon's thing. If you listen to the commentary track, it turns out that that was actually Kevin Feige's idea. And Joss Whedon had to be like, look, we'll do it, but you have to understand, I have a reputation for killing characters. People are going to get mad at me. So yeah, I mean, that's basically all I have to say about the Avengers for now. Phase 1 is a pretty good success. If I had to rank them from best to worst, I'd say the Avengers is the best movie. Then my favorite, I should say. A tie. Avengers and Iron Man are both pretty fucking amazing in terms of quality. So I'll just put those as a tie. For just phase 1, Kevin, my roommate just yelled, Ragnarok! Which I'd also put up there somewhere. We'll get there. Just for phase 1, I would say it's Captain America. It's Iron Man 1, and the Avengers are tied for the best. Then Iron Man 2, then Captain America, the first first Avenger. And then again, a tie for last place between Thor and Incredible Hulk. And we watched the videos, you can find out my thoughts on them, but like neither one is all that much better than the other one, and they're both bland for different reasons, so I can't separate the two. So that's the end of phase 1. Thanks for watching. I'll be back on Monday with Iron Man 3, the beginning of phase 2. Phase 2 is a weird one. It's all, like, we don't really get new characters until Guardians. It's all sequels to the heroes we've met, and some of them are better than others. So, we're going to get Thor 2, we're going to get Cap 2, we're going to get Guardians, which is nice, and we're going to get Iron Man 3. So yeah, it's weird. Phase 2 is, in terms of like the narrative, like the first one was like, let's introduce all these heroes, hey, the Avengers. The second phase has less of a narrative conceit to it. It's just like, here are all of our heroes, and we're going to introduce Infinity Stones, but we're not really telling like, and then Avengers again. So much so that when you get to Avengers Age of Ultron, the reason why they're all together is something that happened on the fucking TV show. So, yeah, Phase 2 has good movies in it, but I don't think it necessarily works as well as a build-up to the season finale type of thing that is an Avengers movie. While I was talking about all that, I had one more point I wanted to make. What was it? Oh, Infinity Stones. We got 2 now. When this one came out and they introduced Thanos at the end, everybody went, who the fuck is that? I didn't know. But I was aware of the Infinity War, and I knew there were Infinity Stones. So the Tesseract, obviously, everybody knows is an Infinity Stone. I don't think anybody knew the Scepter was going to be a stone, because they say in this movie that it's controlled, its power comes from the Tesseract and yada, yada, yada. But as we come to learn later on, the Scepter, Loki's glow stick of destiny, has the Mind Stone in it. So, more universe building. We're on to the next thing. It's the end of a chapter, but by no means the end of the story. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time with Iron Man 3. Who the fuck was that purple dude who smiled when the other guy said death? I didn't know. I had to Google it. I had no fucking clue. That's Thanos, apparently. And who'd have thought they were going to pull that off? When I did the research about it and I found out his thing, in the comics, his thing is that he is in love with death, who is a literal character in the comics. And he wants to destroy half the universe for his own reasons, but also because he wants to bang death. So when I read all that, I was like, well, fuck. I mean, I like the Avengers, but there's no way they're going to pull that off. I mean, if they do, okay. I was wrong. So, yeah, I mean, not much to say about this particular tag. It didn't set up anything for, like, what are they going to do next? It's like, that purple dude who will show up eventually, maybe. So, anyway, yeah, see you next time. I didn't have any shawarma.
Why are you sitting straight into the camera instead of like...
You should have come
looking,
slowly
like, you know,
closer. To make it